Today is April 10, Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform starts its operation today. My name is Vasil Samokhvalov, and now we will be talking about the project called Books for the Front, initiated by the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy in cooperation with a number of civil organizations and not in different businesses. But before I pass the mic to my speakers, the world was impressed by a picture of a Ukrainian soldier lying in a trench and reading a book by Timothy Snyder. And now the legend has a reason that the Ukrainian soldiers all have higher education. So to have this army with at least 2 higher educations in average, to have sitting in trenches, we have those people surrounded around this idea. And I want to pass the microphone to Mr. Oleksandr Tkachenko, the Minister of Culture and Information Policies. Thank you. Since the beginning of the war, we initiated the project for supply of the books to our internally displaced persons and people. More than 1 million books were handed over, but one thing remained still misunderstood, and thanks to Kolya Serga, we also understood that the book is also required in the front lines. I was convinced by that fact last week. It was 2 weeks ago that we were visiting the front lines, and we brought a lot of books to one of the military units. Mykola with his colleagues was making a performance, and when we were going out, the military were chasing us, asking for the books. We just left them over there in the corner. And I want to extend my appreciation to the chains of bookstores, the Club of Family, Free Time, and all those who got united under this project. There will be bookshelves in the bookstores where everybody will be able to put the books on their shelf, and they will be handed over to our military thanks to New Post, Nova Posta. Those books will end up in the military unit. So I want to ask all other chain stores and the civil people get around this idea, because we are sure that the books in the front lines is something that reinforces our defense as well. I would also like to say that it's not just like sending a book to the front line, but it's something that comes with a signature. You should sign it, so you become a co-author. It's an emotional connection that you set up with our defenders. This is in brief. So next one will be Vladislav Klitschko, the Major General, the head of the Morale Department of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. I appreciate this invitation here. Thank you very much. In cooperation with Mykola, we may say that today we should have a nation that reads, and the armed forces is the structure, is the section of population, is the organization that we see as a social section. And for the time being, it was noticed correctly that our military, our servicemen, our philosophy doctors, they have master's degree, they're educated people who have this demand, and they have this requirement, first of all, not to allow the information vacuum in the armed forces and continue developing during the war. That's the first question. And another thing is that in every military unit in the armed forces of Ukraine now there are libraries which are a part of organization of those military units, but unfortunately it happened so that that area was not being developed for a long time. And availing ourselves of this population, in communication with the minister, we discussed the matter of creating museums. And now I want to avail myself of this opportunity to present my personal coin. It says personnel support. Personnel are those who defend our independence now, and this will be the pledge of something that we will bring the libraries of the armed forces of Ukraine in compliance with the European up-to-date level. Can you please demonstrate this coin? That's why I want to thank all the people and organizations who implement those processes. It shows that we really are a European nation who wants to develop. We want to reach the level of the civilized countries that we aspire to. And thanks to that information that the soldier would get, our main task is to build Ukraine along our borders, which would mean the integrity and sovereignty of our state. Mykola, thank you very much. I already presented my coin to you. Kolya Serga is the initiator, the motor, the locomotive of this process of the cultural descent. What do Ukrainian soldiers want to read? Well, listen, it's a question that we cannot answer to, because now a soldier is not just as a soldier was 2 years ago, because some people became the soldiers upon the call of their honor at that very moment of Russian invasion, when they started invading the full-scale invasion of our homeland. And some people just want to read some self-development books. Somebody wants to read something easy, something to recreate. For example, the Ministry of Culture sent us very cool series of books. I don't remember what was their name. Miss Oleksandra, can you please give me a tip? The biographies about some outstanding people, some prominent personalities. It's like 50-60 pages big, and you start understanding what kind of historic personality it was when you read about them. And at this very moment, when we start pondering over our history, our culture, it becomes our foundation. So those books, they are becoming very popular. They're becoming increasingly popular. So there is a series of books, writing in English, hearing in English, and winning in Ukrainian. Reading in Ukrainian, writing in Ukrainian, and winning in Ukrainian. So it's an easy, accessible form that lets you study Ukrainian language. And just like Olga Dubchak, the author, she is in love with Ukrainian language, and she passes that love over to the reader. And many people really start reading the Ukrainian language, even in the front lines where you don't have a lot of free time. So those books, they are very different. And when we were launching that project, we first of all wanted to get a team of psychologists to get their recommendations from them, which books would be better to read. So we had a very cool psychologist. So she looked at us and she said, like, look, why? There is no system, just to send the people what they want. So there was a banner like this. It's a small format printing. So it was a huge banner. Yeah, it's right there on the screen, and there is an instruction on what has to be done. First of all, you have to buy a book. The book you want to present, you have to sign it. And it's desirable to sign it to the most profound extent possible. I'll explain you what it means. When you share something in your letter, when you share your thoughts about this book, what it inspired you for, what it gave you. So this is how you share your inner world. It helps the other person get fond of this book. And we also propose to leave your contacts, because many people, many servicemen, they want to communicate, and when there is already some subject for communication and some profound subject like literature, where you may share your thoughts about something, that you may share some useful information about, something to discuss, it works. We tested this project 4 months ago, and back then we gathered 400 books within a couple of weeks. It was right before the Kherson counteroffensive. We were disseminating those books in those brigades that were involved in counteroffensive. First, it looked like something like an adventure, because we thought there would be no time to read books. There were some books that I forced myself to read because I had very little time. But as we've just arrived, we've seen the infatuation with which the guys were grabbing those books. We've realized that it works. The books in the front lines, I mean, something, when you buy a book and you send it to the front lines, it's just one of the plans. We also invite the authors of the books. For example, Olga Dubchak, whom I've been talking about, we order 500 books that she will come personally and she will tell about those books, and she will hand those books over to the soldiers. So a part of the book, there is a legend around this, there is certain emotions surrounding this book. Denver Sisvianevsky was coming to recently, and he was presenting his book What Ukraine Fights For, and there will be a couple of other authors coming shortly. So if the authors are watching us who have their books and they would like to present those books in the front lines, to come there, to look into the eyes, into the real eyes of the servicemen and share their books, our hugs are open to them. Thank you very much. Now we have two representatives of the publishers from whom we will ask what books will go which way. So we'll start with Miss Tetyana Ryabchenko, Family Leisure Club Publishing House PR Manager. Well, I cannot say where exactly the books are going to go. We will coordinate those logistics further on, but I may tell you where they come from. They will come from our network of 39 books all across all of the Ukraine, and I hope each of those stores will be, I mean, those shelves in our stores, they will be filled, and we will fill the new post with the shipments. Well, Iryna Mykhaylenko, my bookshelf publishing house director. So what will be the books that Ukrainian soldiers are going to read? Well, first of all, they are the people, so they will read all kinds of books, and our bookstores will have those shelves, and you will be able to sign the books and postcards for the military. And it says on that postcards, "Win and come back. Your family waits for you." This is what's written on the postcard. And after they read this book and this postcard, we will see what happens. Then we will have a special packaging with the sticker with the same caption. There will be a crafted envelope for each book, so that soldier feels the moment of unpackaging the book, that surprise what's inside. And obviously we will be inviting everybody to leave their contact details, to say some warm words, to share their emotions about the books. It's important to maintain contact because it inspires the servicemen. They really want to maintain that communication with the civil life, and it's easy to do it through the book. This is something that unites us. Just write a couple of sentences, and then you may set up the cooperation that will be the communication that will be inspiring in future. So we are happy to get engaged in this project. We are happy to give these emotions to our military, and we invite everybody to visit our bookstores, our coffee shops. You may drink a cup of coffee there to read a book, and send something to the front lines. I know that New Post representatives are here in the studio. Well, a couple of words more. I would like to add a couple of words to what Mr. Vladislav said. Every brigade has the permanent location station, and there is a library there. And really, now this is something that starts developing with a different pace than it used to be. and getting engaged in handing over the books. Well, you can get engaged not only handing over the books to the front lines, but also sending them to the libraries of the military units, and soon there will be information posted on the official website of the Department of Morale, how you can send the books to the brigades. I hope we are being watched not only in Kiev, but all around Ukraine, so I hope if it will happen like near your location, obviously where you live there is a brigade stationed nearby, and you want to express your appreciation for guarding you, for fighting for you. So if you have a book that you want to share, please do it, and you will find that information where to send the books on the official website. I would like also to draw everybody's attention to the military medical centers where we have a lot of injured soldiers, so they should also be provided this opportunity to feel your respect, to feel your appreciation. There is a network of regional medical centers located in Kharkiv, Dnipro, Kiev, Lviv, Odessa, so whoever visits those cities, who you may set up regional communication and cooperation over there. And also we study future officers, the educational institutions, higher military educational institutions, where I think this we should not omit them also, and obviously the permanent locations of the military units. We implemented the joint catalog in the armed forces, where we see all the publications, the books for all the armed forces. It's currently being tested, but as I mentioned, this area unfortunately was not being developed. No funding was allocated for its development. It just existed, and we preserved those funds. We implemented some decommunization activities there, but now we see that the people, the servicemen, they want to read. How do they want to read about leadership, how it works, for example, in the United States, in the NATO countries. They want to read our modern authors that describe historic events. So this is my request. Please count all of them in. Yes, I want to support the idea of sending the books to the hospitals, and not from me personally, but also from the publishing house KSD. We already sent the books to Kharkiv hospital. We sent 3 trucks of books over there, and I want to say that the feedback was incredible, because they were feeling they are not forgotten. Even when they are away from the front lines, they are still being remembered. So this is the sign of appreciation, of respect. So I invite everybody to send the books everywhere, including the hospitals. So before we proceed to Q&A session, for what I understand, every individual may join. So what do I have to do to have that book that I bought, to have it sent to the front line? Well, gradually, let's start step by step. So let's start from those bookstores which are involved in this project. All the procedure will be written step by step in their bookstores. You will be able to come to the bookstore to sign the book. You may kiss it, you may pour some perfumes over there, and then send it. So then after that you feel that what you've done is not enough, so buy another book, buy 5 more books, and then you run out of money, and you come back home, you revise your personal library at home, and you understand that you see some books in there that you were particularly impressed. So you go to the Morale Department website. There will be a online, and jointly with Cultural Descent we will help with logistics. We have several teams working, so they will bring your books to their destination. So just give us the information, how many books you want to send and which direction, and we will do it for you. Let's proceed to the questions from the floor. Good afternoon, Ukrinform. My question is whether those books that will be sent to the brigades, will they stay there or then they will be forwarded somewhere else? As the practice shows us, if there is an interesting book in a unit, and usually those military units in the front lines, for example, where that location where the guys stay, it's like from 5 to 20 people, all of them are around the same location. So if there is an interesting book emerging over there, there is already a line who will be the next to read it, so the book will be traveling all around them. Do we have any more questions on the floor? The only thing that I would like to emphasize, we signed a lot of books and we sent them over to the front lines, and this is my personal impression. When you start thinking what should you write in there, this is how you set up the contact with that particular military, that serviceman who protects you. So it's a very important moment, so please follow this best practice. By the way, a story about signing a book right here. So during the Kherson counteroffensive, there was a book that was signed by a girl. I don't know where was enough text, where was more text in the book or in that signature. So there was a girl, she expressed everything, all her impressions about the books. There is a patrol police unit who is very active in the warfare starting from 24th February, very cool guys. And one of those guys, he's a sniper, Han. So he started communicating with that girl who left her contact details, and she keeps sending the books to him all the time. I have another question to Mr. Vladislav. We understand that any book is good, so will there be any analysis which is in more demand, what is more necessary? How will you coordinate or maybe correct this process further on? Well, definitely we need to have some feedback, because the demand is something that results in proposition, basically. So we need to take into account all those requirements, all those impressions that the military have upon reading this or that book. They wish to read some author more, for example, and we will work on that matter. We already have, as it was mentioned, there is a website, the Center for Morale, and we will post the information on a periodic basis there. We will inform everybody about those processes. We will analyze the needs and desires, and we will further on pass them over to the public. Are there any books that should not be sent? Well, only those that impose Russian propaganda. But I think no one would even read them. Well, Russian Federation works well. I came from Kharkiv on Friday, so I got that study book that the Russians brought to the Kharkiv region schools, and they don't contemplate Ukraine as a sovereign state over there. So they start describing some events in there, so we get a lot of materials. We have a R&D center which studies the propaganda and counter-propaganda matters. So I have to say that Russian Federation in some aspects works very roughly, but they have it on a very steady platform, because the issues that they publish, they already created the image of a Ukrainian as an enemy, and they increase it, they develop it on the national level in the military units of Russian Federation, and once in half a year they make a new issue in which the historic facts are being presented under the light that is needed for the Russians, and they try to influence us within those psyops. They disseminate the information via postcards, via messengers. So the books like those, we track them and we analyze them, and we identify what kind of influence it can produce on our military. So those products are not contemplated to end up in the hands of our military. So the only thing I may ask from the publishers, you said that Russians were printing the books for years. Well, we know about this time traveler phenomena in their books. So when our publishers are going to start printing the modern Ukrainian military book? So we plan to make an issue of Plakhi for July about the Russian-Ukrainian war. So we are underway already doing it. We know that our colleagues are doing it as well. Within the last year there was a number of issues, and I know that at the future book arsenal there will be a separate section for military literature, and we will present our books there together with other publishers, and you will be able to see how the Ukrainians live through the war, not only emotionally, but how they reflect it in the books, in the military books, and in the novels as well. I would just like to add, you touched this topic of Russians. They fight our books too. You've seen it in those deoccupied cities. They either steal or burn all the Ukrainian books. We've seen in one of the towns that they put all the books in Ukrainian language in one pile, and you know what, they put on the small breast monument of Pushkin instead of all those books. So we have the Institute of Ukrainian Book, we have new programs implemented for the issue of new Ukrainian books, not in the scale that we would have liked them to, but there are also projects for translation of the books from foreign languages into Ukrainian, from French, from German. So this is how we want to saturate the market with the new issues. I would also like to draw your attention to the fact that now in the ranks of the armed forces there are many writers who have materials, but they don't have opportunities to be printed. So if we initiate this process for printing those authors, for publishing them, we want to sign a memorandum and to start working, cooperating with the publisher, because it's being perceived, you know, in a different way when it's written by the same military who serves in that unit, and they ask for more. So we want to study this issue and to work on it further on. Thank you very much. I agree. Well, if we don't have any more questions on the floor, we will be wrapping up. We were talking about the Ukrainian book as a weapon. Our next briefing is at 4 o'clock. See you shortly.